everyone, welcome to our first video in our virtual summer in the garden. If you've ever been here to the Key West Tropical Forest and Botanical Garden, you know Miss Robin.
Hi everybody.
And Miss Kelsey.
Hey guys.
And I'm Miss Nicole. We're looking forward to learning together throughout the summer. On Mondays in our virtual summer in the garden, we will have introduction videos. Throughout the week, will also be some videos where you'll see Miss Robin, Miss Kelsey, and me. Tuesday is our story time day for our preschool age group, where we do some art and activities. Throughout the rest of the week, we'll do math, science, art, and discovery at home. Now, most of what we'll be learning, you'll be able to see around your home. But you're also welcome to come here to the garden, which is open. And if you're enrolled in our Google Classroom, you and one adult can come to the garden for free. Go to the visitor center and give them your name. In our Google Classroom, you will see a spot for student introductions. Now that you know a little bit about us, let us know about you. Throughout the week, while you work on things, feel free to post a picture with the hashtag KWVirtualGarden. This will get you entered into a raffle where you could win a prize at the end of every week. We're looking forward to learning together in our virtual summer in the garden.
Hi everybody, it's Ms. Robin, and I wanted to give you an introduction to what we're going to be talking about this week. We're going to be talking about adaptations. So if you haven't heard that word before, an adaptation is something that helps a living thing survive in its environment. And that can take the form of what we call a structure, a part of its body, or a behavior, something that it does. So for example, if you think of something that has to survive up where it's cold and snowy in the wintertime, a structure that helps it survive, maybe it has really thick, warm fur. A behavior might be something like hibernating or migrating to some place where it's warmer to help it survive. So it's important to think not only of how it could help that living thing, but how it fits into its environment. So for example, think about a polar bear. It would do a great job living up in the Arctic because it's got that thick white fur. Now, it has two important jobs. It helps keep the polar bear warm, and the white color helps it blend in and hide from its prey. But if you were to imagine bringing that polar bear down here to the Florida Keys, that polar bear would be very, very hot, and it would not camouflage at all. So the environment is important. Now, when we think about the Florida Keys, let's think about the particular challenges of living here. So what can you think of that might make it very difficult for an animal or plant to survive? For one, it's very, very hot. So while we don't have the challenges of staying warm in the wintertime, as a lot of you know, the heat makes its own difficulties. We also have the problem of drought. So in the Keys, we have a wet season and a dry season, where a plant or animal might have to go without rain for many months and would need a way to survive. The other side of the coin is during the wet season, we might have hurricanes, which is a huge challenge. Not only do they have to survive the hurricane itself, but also everything that comes afterwards. And lastly, it might seem counterintuitive, but depending on the environment, plants especially might have the challenge of getting enough sun. So even though we're known for sun, if you think about something that might be in a dense forested area, a plant that's starting to go on the ground is going to have a big challenge getting enough sun before it's tall enough to reach past its competitors. So to get us thinking, I've brought us to a particular habitat today called a cactus barren. Now when you think about cactuses and where they grow, what do you think of? You usually think of deserts, places that are very dry. So our cactus barrens are very dry because of their soil. So what do we observe on these cacti that might help them survive? The obvious one is these spikes, and they have a couple of important jobs. The obvious one is they protect it. I can't imagine wanting to take a big bite out of something that's this pointy, and most animals would agree. but they also have a way of helping it survive in a drought. So a plant can lose a lot of water from its leaves through evaporation. These spikes are actually the cactus's leaves. So very little water is lost from a spike. If you look at it from the side, you can see it's really thick and fleshy. That's a great place for the plant to store water when there's not much coming from its environment. And if you were to reach past those spikes to touch the side of the cactus, you would feel it's very waxy and tough. So that coating helps seal the water that's stored in there inside and keep it from evaporating away. So all of these adaptations work together in its environment to help it survive. So as you search around this week, keep in mind the challenges not just of the Florida Keys, but of the particular environment where you're looking.
Hey guys, this is Miss Kelsey. I'm here in the courtyard at the Botanical Gardens, and today we're going to be doing a little activity where we're going to make our own rain gauge. So rain is obviously very important to plants, and down here in the Keys we have a wet season and a dry season. So this week we're talking about adaptations, right? So how do these plants, these native plants, adapt? How do they survive in the environment that they're in? So these guys have to deal with a dry season, but then they also have to deal with a wet season. And right now in the summer months, we are in the wet season. So we're going to be measuring how much rainfall we get in the next few weeks. And then after we collect some of our data, we're going to go ahead and graph that a little bit later on the week. So this is kind of a preview into our week. So supplies that you need to make your own rain gauge. Okay, I have here just a plastic water bottle. You can also use a glass jar, pretty much anything that you can find in your house. We have a Sharpie, a ruler that includes centimeters as well as inches. We have scissors, some pebbles or small rocks, and then a little bit of water, just a cup of water. So the first step in making our rain gauge, we're just going to cut off the top of our plastic water bottle. So right here you can see I cut right along here where the water bottle starts to get narrower at the top. So we want it nice and uniform all the way up. Cut this off. Step number 2, you're going to fill your rain gauge up with some pebbles or rocks. So the reason that we're doing this is just so that we can kind of anchor our rain gauge into the ground. It's not going to get knocked over by wind or anything like that. Okay, so we've got it filled up with some pebbles. Next, we're going to make our measurements on the side of our rain gauge so that we can see how much rain it has collected. Okay, so one important kind of thing to notice in here is that we're going to be collecting in centimeters instead of inches. You guys are probably more used to inches than centimeters, but in the world of science, we want to get used to using the metric system instead of the imperial system, because the rest of the world uses the metric system, or centimeters, to communicate results. So in the scientific world, we want to be able to communicate our results to as many people as possible. We want to talk about whatever we were researching, and so we're going to use the metric system so that we can kind of practice our science etiquette, if you will. So what we're going to do, you're just going to take your ruler, kind of hold it in the inside here, and you want to make sure that your 0 mark is going to be above where your rocks kind of stop, okay? And this is important because we don't want the rocks kind of messing with making an uneven amount of water that we're measuring. So I'm going to take my Sharpie and I'm going to mark right here at the end of the ruler, and I'll just put a 0 right here. And then I'm just going to make tick marks at every centimeter. So right here, all the way up. Alrighty, so then we can label 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9. So now that we've got our kind of measuring tool right here on the side, the last step is we're just gonna fill up our rain gauge with water right up until that 0 mark. Again, so then that we have a level playing field so that whenever it starts to rain, we're gonna measure the difference between 0 and however much it rained. So take our water. You can see here, it's kind of the start of a rain gauge. The next step is just to place your rain gauge in an area, maybe somewhere in your yard where it's not blocked by trees or anything hanging overhead. And every day you're just going to come out, monitor, look at your little measuring side, see how much it rained that day, write it down in your notebook, empty your rain gauge, fill it up to the 0 with a little bit more water, and then you're good to go. Thanks, guys.